I refused to raise my deceased husband's affair twins, but now his family is demanding I raise his affair children, or they will sue me and take my actual biological kids. My 45F husband, 49M, of 23 years, had an affair with a 20-year-old girl since 2020. I found this out this year when his affair partner gave birth to twin boys in March. Obviously, we were going to divorce. We've been hashing things out since then, and it's been a lengthy process due to some properties in common, and we needed to get an accountant since he used the shared account for his affair. Finally, things seemed to be getting close to the end when both my husband and the woman he cheated with were killed in a car crash, and by some miracle, the twin babies were not harmed in the crash. Now they are orphaned, and neither set of grandparents can take them in apparently. My husband's parents are both in assisted living. He has no siblings, and the only aunt that could take them refuses. She's been child-free her whole life. On the woman's side, I'm not sure the details in full, but her parents are also not able to be involved long-term, and the one sister she has lives overseas. So, since we were still married and had not updated his will, all of his assets are set to pass to me and our two children. I'm not callous enough to leave those babies with nothing though, so I agreed to let whoever is their legal guardian to have the remaining balance in the shared account, about $25,000 in savings. But the issue is, no one wants to take them in. Now my in-laws are pressuring me to take them in and raise them, but the issue is, I don't want to, at all. I wouldn't love them and I don't want to be the evil stepmother, but I know a big part of me will always have a level of resentment towards them, and I will probably favor my own children. It's not their fault, but I truly loved my husband, and I thought we were happy before I found out about the affair. Now, we have two daughters, 14 and 16. And as for my husband, obviously we had disagreements, but never insulted each other before. Then I find out about the affair, and he began calling me names and blaming me for his cheating. He became abusive and even tried to kick me out of the house. My childhood home, by the way, that is not shared property, and I'm also raising teenagers alone now. I don't have the energy to raise babies anymore. My daughters? They hate their baby brothers. I tried to get them to spend time with their dad as we were divorcing, but they refused. And since this was all found out because of the babies, there wasn't really a way to sugarcoat the situation. And they are also too old to really get away with it. Most of my friends agree that it's not my place to care for those children, but my in-laws, the affair woman's partners, and my mother want me to raise them. I know my mom is just having grandkids fever, but it hurts not to have her support. I have to make a decision by next week or the boys will be going into foster care. At the moment, they are temporarily placed with their maternal grandparents. I feel horrible, but I am very sure I can't take them in. So, will I be the a-hole if I refused to take them in? Small update. Hey everyone, this blew up far more than I thought, and I appreciate the well wishes for my girls, the boys, and myself. Also, for the amount of lovely people offering to see about giving the twins a good home. I may not be their mother, but it does touch me, and it makes me glad that there's good people out there. After thinking carefully, speaking to my lawyer, reading responses, doing research, etc., I plan to speak to the grandparents tomorrow and refuse to take legal guardianship of the boys. I will let them know of the usernames of people that offered meeting for private adoptions or fostering, but my daughters are my priority. It'll be up to the twins' grandparents to decide if they will proceed with adoption, keep them, or turn them to the state. I wish I had the mental capacity to be the person to do this, but I have two girls that are going through a lot and they need my full attention. I will also be talking to the lawyers to figure out if the boys have any inheritance claim properly. If they do, I will separate it and leave it to the lawyers to do what they need to do for them to have access when it is best. If they don't, I will find a way to ensure they have access to the $25K I was going to give them since the beginning. I won't do more, however. My moral compass might be biased, but I don't believe I'm obligated, neither morally nor legally, to do more than what the word of the law says. I can't help everyone, and I shouldn't have to. I have two girls that lost their father, two girls that need therapy, two girls just about to get to college. They've gone through enough without seeing their mother favor the children of their father's mistress. Update number 2. So I said 2 nights ago I went yesterday to speak to the twins' grandparents. I explained my position and I refused to take guardianship of the boys. My mother-in-law also almost slapped me when I said that, but thankfully this was all done in a public place and my father-in-law stopped her. The maternal grandparents kept pleading for me to raise them since they didn't want to lose them, and I kept saying no. And when they called me selfish, I lost it. So I told them to their face the only selfish people in this mess were them and their son and daughter. Their son, my husband, for cheating and then making the divorce hell on me and my girls. And then their daughter, because she was an S-word that went after a married man twice her age. and I told them if I heard from them again, I would request a cease and desist. I also informed my parents-in-law that they won't have access to my daughters for the foreseeable future, and I'll explain why in a bit. So, we were at a restaurant, but I didn't stay for the meal. I also sent an email to my lawyer so he can ensure CPS and any agency involved in the welfare of the twins is aware I am not going to be their guardian or be involved. Then I sent an email to my in-laws with all of the usernames and websites from people here on Reddit that have offered to do interviews for the twins' adoption. I won't be involved beyond this point, so please, as lovely as it is, I can't help you if you are interested in the boys. Yesterday was the end of my involvement. Now, as for why my in-laws won't see my girls, I spoke to my daughters and decided to find out more about their thoughts before I went to the grandparents, and my youngest refused to speak to me, which I found very out of place for her. My eldest then just asked for the two of us to speak. That's when she explained that my in-laws had been going on about how the girls needed to get ready to go to public school instead of their private school, and to get jobs right out of high school since I will have to provide the twins with private schooling and college money. Apparently, they also were told to start moving their stuff to share a room, and my girls have separate rooms right now, since the twins need more space. This was not known to me, mostly cause that would never happen. Apparently, my in-laws have basically been bullying the girls because the babies take priority. Yeah, that's not happening. I told the girls that their grandparents have no say in where they go to school, their college funds, or how their rooms are set in our house. Also, that I do agree they could use a part-time job during college and maybe a scholarship, but their tuition will be paid. I told them not to blame the babies for the stupidity of the adults, and they told me they understand, but they still don't want to interact with their brothers for now. And that "for now" part gives me hope that they will get through things. But for now, we're going to do some changes in the house. The girls and I both don't like that there's still an office space that my husband used, and we're going to make it into a gaming room for all of us. And I plan to take down some pictures that have my husband in them and put them in albums for the girls. We just want to make sure the house is more ours. As for people wondering why my girls wanted nothing to do with their father, my daughters were the ones that discovered the affair and told me when my husband took them to meet the twins at the hospital. He had asked them to keep it a secret, but my girls told me. And after that, my husband began treating them horribly too, and he burnt all bridges with the girls. Edit. A very teeny tiny update since there's some people still harassing me in PMs. I spoke to a lawyer on Monday. The boys have no inheritance claim until a DNA test is done. After that, their only claim is against my in-laws. The shared account is not considered my husband's individual property, so it's mine. Same with the lake house, since he had a personal savings account and a life insurance, which went to his parents. That will be the only thing the boys could claim. Obviously, this can be changed if it goes to trial, but the lawyer told me with how little my husband left my girls and I, there's very little chance a judge will demand our assets. The lawyer also recommended me to completely end the idea of sharing any money with the boys. That could be used against me to claim I'm taking fiscal responsibility for them and should be considered to be their guardian. I'm dividing the money from the shared account for my daughter's college tuitions. I'm still unsure if I will sell the lake house or not, but neither the girls nor I are attached to it. Now please leave me alone about the boys' inheritance. Sad as it is, my husband messed everything up for his children. I'm not responsible for them, nor do I have to sacrifice my assets to set them up for a better life. Next update. So there's some good news and some annoying news. The good news is the boys were safely retrieved by CPS from their maternal grandparents and will be placed in foster care until a permanent arrangement is made. I found out when it happened since their grandparents and my mother came to scream at me at work. In all honesty, I'm glad this happened at work and not at home though, and it's made me consider moving since I don't want my daughters exposed to any of this. Then an annoyance I had very soon after was getting called about my inquiries into fostering and adopting. Apparently my information was sent to CPS as someone interested in fostering the twins and eventually adopting. I immediately explained the situation between the grandparents and me, and the operator was speechless at first. She apologized for the situation and told me she would make sure I wasn't bothered about the process. And then, also, I got served this morning. My in-laws are suing for grandparents' rights. They are also suing for custody. Apparently, they're planning to leave their assisted living, which they really shouldn't do, to buy a house that allows kids to get the twins back, and now also they want custody of my daughters. Then my personal lawyer immediately gave me some instructions that I won't share to safeguard myself and my daughters from some risks during a possible custody battle. My lawyer and I both suspect my in-laws want the girls to be parentified and make them caretakers for the twins since my in-laws have mobility limitations. But it will be a cold day in hell before that happens. I don't see CPS placing the boys with them to begin with. But not all is bad news. I'm starting therapy next week, and my eldest daughter is once again speaking about the colleges that she wants to go to. We still haven't really talked about their father or have them agree to visit his grave. I myself haven't gone there, and I'm trying really hard to get used to not calling him my husband anymore. I had nothing to do with the funeral plans, aside from paying bills, and from what I heard, his parents had the epitaph say, "Devoted and beloved husband, father and son." I find that to be a joke. I know it's bad to hold on to so much anger and resentment, but as soon as I have time, I plan to change his tombstone to remove husband and father. It might sound petty, but I refuse to speak well of a cheater and abuser just because he's dead. My daughters deserved better, and so did I. And for anyone complaining about me changing the tombstone, I paid for everything at the end. So stick your complaints you know where. I don't think I will post another update until the whole mess with the grandparents' rights lawsuit is resolved. So to the kind people that have sent me support, to me and my daughters, thank you so much. Maybe I'll have good news in the future, but for now, I'm going back to my old Reddit account. And small disclaimer, to the person that PM'd me that I will regret not adopting the twins, I don't regret it one bit. Please either post a public message or leave me alone. I don't deal with cowards that use PMs to avoid being judged. Then, in the comments section, OP elaborated on if she can take the twins in temporarily, or at least until family members can step in, and said, "So, I don't want to take them in, even temporarily. I'm 45. I'm tired. I work full-time. I don't have time for babies. I don't even have a babysitter anymore. My girls are old enough to be home alone after school until I finish work. I can't do that with babies, and I can't ask them to babysit the babies. They have their after-school clubs and like to go out with friends. I don't want them raising babies. I can't take them, I can't even pick them up. They are innocent, but I can't do it. If it was reversed, my daughters would go to my cousin then. That has always been the backup plan that we had in place if my husband and I both died. I'm sorry the twins don't have that, but the more I read on this, the more I've realized I can't take those babies." Then some users encourage OP for her daughters to have a relationship with the twins and said, "Guys, I've tried, but they are teenagers who understand what cheating is. I will not force them to have a relationship with the babies if they don't want it." Then OP elaborates on therapy for the daughters regarding the affair and said, "I have my girls with a therapist, and this was brought up. The girls despise the babies. It's not the baby's fault, I know, but the girls are angry and they are pointing fingers, and I don't want to put more stress onto them." And then finally, OP elaborates on the inheritance left for the family members from her husband's will, and if there is anything for the twin boys, and said, "So, the properties in the will were left in my name. The only shared property is a lake house that is currently on sale. If the will is contested, I will happily divide it. As it stands right now, though, I don't have anything to give. And no, it wasn't 50-50. He cheated and the divorce left me with a majority of assets per our prenup. That's the half of what he owned. The family home was mine before the marriage. The cars are getting sold and put for my daughter's college per his will. The $25K and half of the lake house was his assets. His personal bank account balance went to his parents, per his will. There's no assets for the babies for them based on the will. The only asset they would get is what I offered to give them, the $25K, and they could contest part ownership of a lake house. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to go beyond that. I was the higher income in my marriage. In the divorce, I was getting most of the assets. My daughters are about to head to college. I feel for the twins, but I won't have my daughters' quality of life suffer. Also, bold of you to assume my daughters are expected to love them out the bat. They are going to therapy, and it's up to them if they one day want to be in their half-brothers' lives or not. I won't pressure them. I hope they do learn not to hate them and at least see them as innocent in all of this, but they won't be forced to see them as family. I'm following the instructions strictly as the lawyers, my divorce lawyer, and the lawyer in the charge of the will give. I won't do anything beyond the word of the law as I'm advised by my counsel. Also irrelevant if I deserved a loyal husband, my daughters deserved a better father. The twins will only get what the law dictates. Update, 1.5 months later. Hey everyone, some people have been asking me for updates, and to be sincere, I had nothing until today. To start things, cousins from my ex-husband's side of the family took the boys in. I know them, they are lovely, and I know they will give the twins a great life. The new parents, calling them Matt and Kim, spoke to my daughters and let them know if they ever want to reach out to their half-brothers, they just have to call. Otherwise, they can just see them as distant cousins. My girls thanked them but insisted they don't really want a sibling relationship at this time, but maybe as cousins it will be okay. I did offer them the money from the shared account since they are family, and they said not to worry since they don't need it. Kim even insisted I use that money for a vacation for my girls and I. Apparently I look like the living dead. They also set very strict lines with my in-laws and the parents of my ex's affair partner. They can see the boys, but they won't be seen as grandparents. This apparently caused a big fight with the affair partner's parents, and then Matt and Kim cut them both off. And then again, threats of suing for grandparents' rights were thrown around, but it went nowhere. That's how I found out why the affair partner's parents couldn't take the boys permanently. The father is a convicted felon in an abuse case. I won't share the details out of respect, but if what Matt and Kim told me is true, I am glad the boys won't grow up with that man as an example. The only reason his wife had temp guardianship was because of the sudden death of the parents, and the process to find a relative to raise the boys. She would have had to live away from her husband to allow permanent custody, and she wasn't willing to do so. My ex-in-laws, well, they did figure threats were not going to work, so they agreed to be great uncles instead. Good for them, I guess. They now want me to let them live with me and the girls though, since they left assisted living recently, and now the place they were in doesn't have an opening. This place has a long wait list, and the only reason they got in originally was because my ex and I offered to pay 5 years in full. They still had 2 full years paid left, and I was going to pay for them. After everything they put my daughters and I through though, I'd rather burn my money in a grill than spend it on them. I know they want my girls and I to be their caretakers, but I won't even consider it. My daughters have their own paths to follow, and in all honesty, I want to consider meeting someone new. I know it sounds like I'm moving on too quick, but I've been working to move on since I found out about the affair. I don't think my ex deserves me to go through a mourning period. I already mourned our relationship. At least that's what my eldest daughter said. Funny enough, she's been encouraging me to go out and meet someone. We still have that custody lawsuit from my ex-in-laws going, and a few other issues that I will update when I have more time. But I wanted to at least let everyone know that the boys are safe and are together. Then in the comments section, one user said, "OP, you and your daughters sound actually really well adjusted. I'm glad the boys landed in a safe place and can still have some sort of friendly family relationship with their half-sisters. I think this is beyond my best expectations for this event, and I am happy for everyone, especially for the soon-to-be homeless ones." Well, they should be well enough monetarily to afford a new place, so they'll be fine. They may be horrid, but if they were to go homeless, I would put the money to at least get them a relatively comfortable facility. It's really up to them what they do now, though. Then user 2 commented and said, "So, how come your ex-in-laws left their prepaid accommodation? And did you get the 2 years of unused rent back? That is a lot of money." So, the answer is nope. They signed off on the money since they were in a hurry to do their whole custody plan. And I'm talking with a lawyer to see if we can recoup the money, but very unlikely since the breach was done by my in-laws. And yeah, about $180,000. And oh, I absolutely agree. My ex-father-in-law is pretty much blind and has a bad knee. He can barely move. My ex-mother-in-law has back issues. Both of them are also diabetic and have other issues that, in all honesty, makes it impossible for them to live alone. Wherever they go, a caretaker is a must. It's why my ex and I looked for a good facility. If they had not received my ex's personal savings and life insurance, I would feel obligated. But they received a lot of money from him, enough to live comfortable if they don't squander it. Now, if they do squander it, it's on them. Again, the hypothetical scenario would be if they were without means from the get-go. New update. 1 month later. So we had the mediation this week for the grandparents' right lawsuit, and this is just to avoid taking space on a judge's already heavily stressed docket, though I knew it would go nowhere. My ex-in-laws' demands were for the girls to either be in their custody or spend weekdays with them and weekends with me. Even the court-appointed mediator told them they were not being realistic with their expectations. My lawyer and I, we had one offer and we were not willing to negotiate. They will see my daughters only if they want and when they want. Mediator also thought we were being unfair. That's when a detail came out. My ex-in-laws had claimed my daughters are 6 and 4, a whole decade younger than they really are to the mediator. So I provided him with birth certificates as well as showing him pictures of the girls, and the mediator shook his head and said he couldn't help in this case. My daughters are too old for grandparents' rights to even be considered. He will send a recommendation for the grandparents' rights lawsuit to be dropped, but the custody one will still be going since neither my ex-in-laws nor I agree on custody. I refuse to give them any single bit of legal control of my daughters, and they are also now demanding I make them their legal guardian if I happened to pass away. Nope. Then, on to some strange news, I met the sister of my ex's affair partner. She brought some items to my house that she knew had to be stolen from me. These are things that were supposed to be in storage. My wedding dress, an old jewelry box that had a picture of my grandparents, some of my coats that are a bit pricey, shoes, and what creeped me out the most, copies of my personal documents, passports, IDs, etc. The sister told me she was cleaning up their place when she found my property and used the address shown in them. She was rather nice and apologized for her parents and sister, and I did ask her why she refused to take the twins, and she told me that she did because she was tired of being the emergency plan for the family. She didn't say more, and I didn't think it was right to ask her. She knew that they were my items because apparently the affair partner had bragged about my ex-husband giving her these items, except for the documents. She has no idea what's going on with that, but she didn't want anything to do with identity theft. She did bring some things that weren't mine, and I let her know, so I only kept my property. And I told my lawyer about the ID issue, and he helped me get my credit frozen, and I'll be getting new IDs and passports. We also did report the possible identity theft to the police, so we had the report in case my personal information was used for something illegal or to put me in any trouble. I didn't know one could make a report on a dead person, but apparently this happens more often than I imagined. And no, this won't turn into a conviction from the grave. It's just paperwork to protect myself. And a last funny note, I'm planning to burn that wedding dress and make s'mores over the fire. Petty? Yes. Update 4 months later. Hey everyone, my 46F daughters, 17 and 15, have a strained relationship with my ex-husband's parents, 78M and 80F. My ex passed away in an accident last year, and we've had some major family drama since due to his cheating and him leaving 2 boys born with his affair partner orphaned. She also died. Part of the drama, though, has been my ex-in-laws trying to get custody of my daughters and them also trying to live with us. First one we're going to court over, and the second one will never happen. Now, where we live, there's a weekend market with fresh produce, eggs, meats, and other products straight from farmers. This week was extra special since it was my youngest daughter's birthday. Since her party is later in the month, I decided to give her a budget and set her loose on the market to get whatever she wanted, mostly chocolates and sweets. And then after an hour, I did start getting worried, and just before I called her, she called me. She was crying, saying some weird people have cornered her. So I ran to her with my oldest daughter to find 6 older women berating my daughter for being unchristian, for refusing to spend time with her paternal grandparents, or for wanting to be a good big sister to her poor orphaned baby brothers. My daughters are the ones that found out about my ex cheating and the babies, so they aren't fond of the kids. It's trauma, and they are working with a therapist. Then I got between the group and my daughter, telling my eldest to go pay for the stuff her sister had and then go to the car. Then I turned to the women, some who I knew from when we went to my ex-in-law's church, and I ripped them a new one. They told me I was worse for refusing to obey my ex-in-laws like a good Christian wife. Barf. Eventually, the screaming turned too loud, and we were all asked to leave the market. I then went to go meet my girls at the car, and the women following me were like a group of vultures. But I did manage to get in the car and drive away. And after my girls went to bed, I got online to talk to another member of that church that I am in good terms with. I told him about what happened, and afterwards he apologized, and he told me what was going on. My ex-mother-in-law posted this massive story in the church's Facebook group about how horrible my daughters and I are, how we are leaving them homeless and penniless. But they inherited my ex's personal bank account and his life insurance, and they said how my daughters don't even talk to them. And she also accused us of being the reasons she lost her grandsons. The boys are now living with distant relatives of my ex-husband. Basically, it was a sob story worthy of a Hallmark movie. And of course, they were getting all the love and support from the more extremist members of their church. Now, this church and its members are a bit annoying, especially with LGBTQ+ topics, but they have a small saving grace. They are incredibly strict about cheating. It is a big no-no, be it from a husband or a wife equally. Now, how did she get around blaming me about affair children without exposing the cheating? She claimed the other woman was our surrogate since I was unable to have more children, then said I didn't want the babies because they were boys, which is absolutely disgusting to be accused of. Well, I decided it was time to clean up this mess, and since I was mid-divorce when my ex died, I had all the evidence I needed. And since the divorce wasn't completed, I don't have any legal ramification for releasing all the evidence. So I was off the next day and went to a print shop to get copies of all the delightful pictures of my ex cheating, his text conversations with his affair partner, the ones with his parents confessing to his cheating and getting support from them, my ex-in-laws harassing me about the divorce, and my coup de grace, all the emails and text messages of them bullying my daughters about their baby brothers. In one of them, they call my daughters bastards and are telling them it was their fault their father died since they told me about the affair and I began the divorce. This one was literally 2 days after my ex died, and I paid extra for all of this to be printed in beautiful, high-quality paper. Then, when I got home, I sat down for hours to make delightfully personalized binders. They look like the little prayer song packets that the church gives to everyone when it comes to singing. And the first picture when opening the binder is my ex and his side woman making out in our living room. Their faces are easy to discern, and the girl looks nothing like me. Different skin tones and hair color. And underneath, I wrote ex-husband's name and a fair girl's lover name, Love Story, and I took them to the church before service. There's a desk in the back with the songbooks for people that need or forget their own, and they never check them. And the gossip mill was quick and harsh. The names my ex and his affair partner got called in Facebook were so bad, the pastor himself had to get involved just to keep things relatively PG-13. People were also angry that I was still in the wrong for the divorce. But it is understandable that I failed on my duties after the shock, and I possibly will one day return to the light, they say. Unlike my cheating husband and his Jezebel. They used another word I can't use here, I imagine. I got 2 apology letters in the mail for my girls and an invitation to join the church for support, but as for my ex-in-laws, they got shamed into leaving the church. Then my ex-mother-in-law made a post on her wall about how alienated she feels and how no one cares for the elderly anymore, and how she wished her great son was still alive since he would have taken care of her and her husband. But with what money? I don't know, since I was the breadwinner. Edit. So, to explain the will, my ex-husband had a will that named his parents as beneficiaries. As far as I am aware, he told me that he had named our daughters, not his parents. And I never pushed for me to be the beneficiary, as my own will has my daughters as the beneficiaries, not him. Then OP in the comments section elaborates on who actually got the life insurance and bank account due to her husband's will and said, "No, the parents did. My daughters only got the value of 2 used luxury cars that he owned after they sold. We both did our wills some years ago, and he listed them, the parents, as beneficiaries. They were the beneficiaries in his will. If he had died without a will, then yes, automatically I would get a majority of assets. With a will, it gets complicated. I could, in theory, contest it, but I just don't think the fight is worth it." Then one user commented and said, "OP, I so think it's worth it." Okay, I'm making more than he did, and my daughters and I live in relative luxury. Contesting the will is a headache and a half, plus it would just add more animosity. If I was pressed for money, sure, but at this point, I see it as an investment in cutting ties. Then OP explains what she was told by her ex about the beneficiaries and said, "Well, my ex told me the girls were the beneficiaries. I did similar with my will, leaving majority to my daughters, all my personal savings, bonds, and life insurance, with him receiving my house, mine before marriage, and joint property. But he lied. But I have learned that that is the norm for him. It's a blessing in disguise, though. I could contest it for sure, but that's just a headache. And since there are 2 other children involved, contesting the will requires a ton of paperwork to divide what was my property, what was his, and what was joint. The later 2 would have to be divided, and it's just a headache." Then some users tell OP to move away and have a fresh start and said, "Oh, we are in the process. There's a lot of toxic stuff happening here involving my ex's family and my family, and I don't want any part of it." Then OP elaborates on what happened to the twins and said, "The boys are with relatives that want to adopt them. I'm not sure how that is going on, but I wish them all the best. My daughters and I are moving hopefully next year after my eldest graduates." And then finally, some users told OP to make sure that if she passes away, her children don't go to the in-laws and said, "Oh, trust me, that's been arranged for years. Neither my mother, who is a criminal nutcase, nor my ex's parents will ever get a chance to take my girls if I die. We thankfully have sane extended family. My siblings, aunts, uncles, and cousins, and amazingly my ex's husband's aunts and cousins have been a great support to the 3 of us." Oh boy, folks, this is where the narrator gives his opinion, and I have to say, this was a long one. I've read this one before, and I'm glad we got some new updates, but I mean, I remember last time just roasting the in-laws. Why did they sell all their stuff and leave? Are they stupid? They bowed out and still had, 2-3 years rent left and didn't even have a full plan. They were just like, we're gonna leave, evict ourselves, and sue.
and then lie and fail miserably. They are dumb. Their plan is not going to work. They have dementia and are dumb, and I really don't care if they go homeless, I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel so bad for OP and her daughters who have to keep going through this stuff over and over and over again. How about you take care of the twins, you loser dorks? And all those Redditors at the start saying, OP, why can't you take care of them? Sure, you have daughters and are 45 and got cheated on and are divorced and is getting sued, but just take care of the twin babies that you don't even like. Sure, like it's easy for you to say jerk, but you know what? It seems like they've been cut off. The lawsuits aren't going to work out. They're moving away. The twins are with actually people who want to be with them, who are not insane. And if anything happens to OP, well, the crazy people are not going to get the kids, and I can take solace in that. And people are going to therapy too, so that's good. But anyway, guys, we are at the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching, commenting. Have a really good day, and bye-bye.